Welcome, everyone. We are filtering into the room. I see people joining us from all around. So, welcome. It is a pleasure to see you all. I see some familiar names and some unfamiliar names, which is always great. I love that. So, let me begin introducing you to this. And I'm going to let Simon tell a little bit of the story about how Jay and Simon got started. And yes, Josh, I can see you in the chat. And Jay, great to see everyone as well. So it is a pleasure. So we can see your comments. But one of the things that we do here at the Abraham Group is we want you to be able to stay focused and not distracted by the chat. So you'll be able to chat with us. We will respond sometimes to all of you, even if it seems to be coming out of nowhere. And I did see a raised hand as well. And hello, Honolulu. So welcome, everyone. So let me get started with this introduction. We created an amazing workbook, this process that Jay and Simon came to, and Simon's going to tell you a little bit of that origin story, and I don't want to steal his thunder. And this workbook was sent out to some very inspiring people to see, their response, and we got some pretty amazing feedback. Does anyone here know Rory Sutherland, the vice chairman at Ogilvy, the UK, in the UK? Um, yeah, I see a couple people saying yes. Awesome. Uh, so a couple no's. So Robert, Rory, what I like about Rory is he thinks differently like Jay Abraham. And he said, stop trading time for money. Get involved with this. If you're tired of, he was saying that this is a shortcut to freedom. So amazing guy. Then the next one we got is from Vern Harnish, who's an American business writer, founded the Entrepreneurs Organization, also founded Scaling Up. And he said of this workbook, each chapter pays for itself in time saved and revenues added. Then we have, I'm having a scrolling issue, Edward Lamont. Edward started out as a street juggler. No, really, he did. And then he went into commodities, successful gasoline components, brokering businesses in London, and freelance financial journalist. And he said, Jay and Simon have nailed the focus on saying no before going to show you how to leverage yourself and your time to become free rather than just another of the worried wealthy. And lastly is Marshall Goldsmith, who I think most of you know, being a New York Times bestselling author and leader of executive coaching and leadership, known for his work on behavioral change, which we're going to talk a little bit about today, and who said, this shows you how to design a business that funds your freedom. So let me introduce our key players today very briefly. Simon Severino has helped business owners in SaaS and business services run their company more effectively, which results in sales that soar. He created Strategy Sprints method that doubles revenue in 90 days by getting owners out of the weeds. Simon's the CEO and founder of Strategy Sprints, which is a global team of certified Strategy Sprints coaches that helps clients gain market share and work in weekly sprints, which results in fast execution. He's a Forbes Business Council member, a contributor to Entrepreneur Magazine, and a member of Duke Corporate Education. And I'm not going to steal Jay's thunder. I'm going to just be very brief. The man behind $75 billion in strategic breakthroughs for business owners across 10,000 companies and across well over 1,000 industries, from Tony Robbins to Microsoft, Damon John to FedEx. Major corporations, small corporations have used Jay Abraham's thinking to unlock massive exponential growth. And that's a little bit of what we're going to do here for you today. So without further ado, I'm going to let Jay take over the show to frame us up for what we're up to and what we're going to be delivering today. And take it away, Jay.
Thank you, Brian. So let me put in context what, why, how, and that. What this is. I met Simon over a year ago, and I was impressed. He's done some very cutting edge work across many domains, very sophisticated corporate, mid-size, smaller entrepreneurs, even beginning startups. He has some very, very original methodology. He and I we synced very well, and he had some very powerful methodologies in his sprint methodology that he thought, if integrated into my rather vast exponential entrepreneurial body of work, would be just kick-ass killer. I thought that was very promising because I don't like to be static. I think the most important thing, if you're going to turn to somebody or somebody's as your masterful thinking partner, is that they keep helping you grow, evolve. There is that adage, you grow or die, you expand or you contract, you multiply or you diminish. You can't stay constant. And as we started exploring how to do this, we realized that the majority of mid-size and smaller entrepreneurs, let's say they don't value the investment, not the time spent, but the investment they're making in time. And time should be seen as an investment. You're getting a yield that exceeds the alternative you could get in lesser investments of allocations of your time. And that's in business, that's in your personal life. And Simon's research is pretty profound. He can show anybody that by using your time much more astutely as a leader, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, founder, and extricating yourself from the low yielding day to day, you can make just unimaginable growth. You can almost eviscerate the stress level. You can gain absolute competitive control over time. And it's pretty profound. So we spent about a year developing an integrated thesis. It's become a breakthrough methodology, and I love breakthrough methodologies. It's very unique and different from the ones I singularly teach, but it's an embodiment of both Simon's and ours. We came up with it. It is a systems approach that is progressive, and any system has processes in driving it. So we refined it, we've codified it. Today we are going to teach you a much more elevated strata of thinking, acting, transacting your business and your life. It is going to take you to a trajectory of achievement and control I think you've never been exposed to before. I'm very delighted, as Brian said, we sent some of the abstract of what we're going to teach you today to some very prominent, very influential, and very no-nonsense people whose endorsements and reputations are, pristine, and they wouldn't say things like that. They got no compensation. I don't know two of them. They might know me. I do know Marshall Goldsmith, but they were vividly impressed by the originality, the power, the logic, and the undeniable impact of what we're going to teach you. We've got about 3 hours allocated, and it may go that long, it may not. I would like to share with you how we're going to do it, why we're going to do it that way, what we would hope you will do as the recipient of the investment we are making in you, and then I'm going to get the show started. We believe the best way for you to grasp the full magnitude, the import, the unimaginable power, source, and force that what we're going to share today can deliver is to do it the following way. We're going to give you the overview. Then we're going to share with you each progressive module that builds on one another. We're going to introduce it. We're going to give you a case study example of it so you can easily see how to extrapolate it to your business, your life. You're going to see how to adapt it, adopt it. And then I'm going to do what I'll call color. Simon is going to be the play-by-play guide to take you on the journey. When he is done with the module, I'm your advocate, and I'm going to make contextual and significant commentary that I think helps dimensionalize it, concretize it in your mind, animate it more transactionally. At the end, you should have the fundamentals of a transformative new business model, methodological approach, ideology, philosophy that can free you forever from the shackles of dependency on the vagaries of day-to-day stress and uncontrolled competitive situations. We are doing this for two reasons. One, I live, and I have for 50 years, for the ability to liberate people from the limited constraints of performance, control, prosperity, contribution, income, output that they can, an impact they can make. We are going to develop this into a very sophisticated and very expensive year-long training program. It'll probably go about $30,000, but we're going to, throughout this, tell you about what we're doing. And if you're so inclined, because you think that even though we're going to lay it all out, even though we're going to explain it more detailed than you probably ever heard anything explained, even though we're going to give you a case study reference, if you acknowledge it's a much better strategy than the one you're following, if you recognize that embracing it could transform the rest of your life, both financially and also in control, but you don't think you'll do it on your own, we will extend to you, if you're so inclined, a chance to be part of a pilot program we're going to do, very modestly priced, because we need to refine the elements before we take it to the full $30,000 level. So for a fraction of that, you will be invited if you want. And we are eager either way. We're eager to collaborate with you for the next 6 months if you want to. We've compressed it into something even faster for the pilot. We also are eager to share, without withholding much of anything, the fundamentals. So if you're somebody who's a monster of self execution, you have a prejudice towards action, you're very directable, and you really take good notes and you stay in the moment, you can do it yourself. If you don't think you'll do it yourself, or you won't do it anywhere close to its fullest yield capacity, we're going to be here for you. So with that stated, I think we should start. And Simon, if I forgot or eliminated any part of the setup for this, please share that, because we're doing this as a duality, and we have the permission of one another to interrupt, to amend. This is all about you and your future. And again, we hope to be beneficiaries of a dozen or so of you that will be very collaborative in our pilot program, but we're not as focused on that for today. We're more focused on seeing you mirror to yourself why and how you are self-limiting, and why and how you are overstressing, and why and how you are basically not getting anywhere close to the optimal return you could be on the investment you are making in time. And since nobody has more than 24/7, one more thing, Simon, is very interesting. I used to do very expensive $30,000-$40,000 seminars when I was younger. And I would have Brian Tracy do a session, a very long 6-hour session. And his premise would start by saying, what is your time worth and what do you want it to be worth? It'd be very interesting. And he'd ask people, and most didn't even know, but he'd make them take the hours that they worked, all of them, divide it by whatever they earned last year, come up with a figure and say, okay, you're making, $120 an hour, 150, 200, 300. What do you want to make? And they would come up with a target. Maybe it was they made 300,000. They want to make 2 million. He'd say, okay, well, you don't have more than 24/7. You don't have more than anybody else. You probably don't have that big of a greater IQ, maybe a lesser one. Probably don't have any more resources in terms of capital, maybe not even as much infrastructure. So how do you propose to do it unless you dramatically shift the strategy you're following? The way you invest instead of spend. Spend, by the way, if I go, I spend my time so-and-so, think about it. Spending is speculating. Look up the definition. Investing is consciously knowing the return you're going to get for the allocation of resources you're getting. And investing is not just to make money. It's to make joy. It's to have psychic fulfillment. It's to have control. With that stated, it's yours, Simon.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Brian. And I was going through the hundreds of new names that I don't know yet, and to the many, many familiar names. Welcome the regulars and the partners and the friends and the colleagues and the clients. And welcome also all the new names. Excited to get to know you and to make new friends here. So thanks, Jay, for the nice introduction. Let's get this party started. It's week by week that we meet you guys and we talk to you and we are immersed in your life because we're entrepreneurs ourselves and we are your coaches. So we see stagnant revenue. Buyers are cautious, especially high ticket B2B deals get dragged, take longer, trapped trading time for money, and time doesn't scale. There is a limit there. So it's not the superior business model. And then we see that you're missing important life moments. They don't come back. Kids, they grow quickly, much quicker than we think. Some of us are trapped in operations ourselves. We're still doing the client delivery even, or maybe the marketing, or maybe all of it. And then we're postponing personal joy for that theoretical moment that comes later when the big numbers happen. The business dictates our schedule, not vice versa. And there is no balance, doesn't feel like balance, and there is perpetual tiredness in the room. Our friends tell this, and when we get asked, how are you? The energy is not at a 10 out of 10. So when we started building this program, we were thinking about these things, and we put together the best J tools, the best Simon tools, everything that worked in the last decades in the field to multiply income and reduce work hours, to focus on compounding assets, even passive, residual, recurring and passive assets. Design a business that feeds your life, not vice versa. And then mastering leverage. You will learn 12 forms of leverage that, you remember Archimedes, give me a fulcrum and I can lift the world. That's the exercise. Find fulfillment in the growth process, not after it or not for the promise of what happens later, but right now, right here, today, this week, this hour. And achieve financial freedom, time freedom, and location freedom. Because in the end, why did we start a business in the first place? Because we wanted independence. And what is independence really? It is saying yes and no to the right people, saying yes and no to the wrong places, to the wrong projects. So it is actually this ability, optionality to be in control of your time and to be in control of who you work with and what you do. So that's the situation, and the program and also the accompanying tools and workbooks that we have with it, they are expected to create 3 results. Step 1, we want to free up your time. For up to 14 hours per week will be reclaimed, because without that, we cannot go and strategize and scale. So first, we need to recreate that breathing room. We need to cut out up to 14 hours per week from your time so that we have breathing room to work on the business, not in the business. Month 4, by month 4, so that's the next 2 months of the program, we want to find what works in your marketing, amplify that, refine that, improve the positioning, messaging, and the impact of your marketing so that by month 6, we can then start accelerating the revenue side, now monetizing that marketing part. So time freedom first, freeing up the time, then increasing the impact, then accelerating revenue. Those are the 3 things. And you saw sprint. Why should we sprint? Isn't life a marathon? Well, actually not. If you live life as a marathon, you just get a heart attack. It's much better. And if you remember Michael Csikszentmihalyi's book called Flow, it's better to have short bursts of intense work and then have that creative room, that reflective room, that working on the business rather than in the business. So the reason why we like the sprint method is because you can break down big elephants into very small chunks. Small is easy, easy is fast. And when you do easy and fast, it's fun. Because imagine playing Angry Birds and you shoot the bird, it says 500 points. And then you shoot the bird again, it says 800 points. What do you want to do next? Everybody wants to shoot for 1,000 points. But imagine you shoot the bird and it says, in 3 weeks, I will send you a report about your points. That's the opposite of flow. That's the opposite of flow. And that's what drags and kills motivation, kills momentum. So it's really about the true freedom, the underlying reason why we started a business in the first place. And in order to not just ensure that freedom, but build that stability of freedom of optionality, we need 12 forms of leverage, and we're going to teach them, and they are in the workbook, so that you have the ability to say yes and no to your dream clients, but also to be ready when the ideal clients come in. Because we have experienced on our own, you have this a perfect deal that comes in, and now you can't say yes because you're full with small stuff. So it's about true freedom, and it's about freeing up to 40% of your time, because the businesses, the business systems that Jay mentioned, they keep compounding. So once we install those systems, and I will show you 3 very, very nitty-gritty examples of those systems. Once you install them, they keep on giving, they compound. So it's less activity, but it's also more impact and more wealth creation. And it continues so. So it's more wealth creation for your clients, for your colleagues, your partners, your family, yourself. It's 3 parts. First 2 months, simplifying. Second, the next 2 months, finding what works and scaling that up. Now that we know what works, we will scale that up. And then the last part is compounding. This is from the financial world, but it works everywhere in business, where you turn your expertise into assets that work while you don't. Like Jay has books. Those books give royalties. They are out there in different languages. My book is out there in 3 languages. While I sleep, it creates royalties. So these things, you build them once, they keep compounding. Deliverables of the program. In 6 months, we deliver 24/7 community access. You will have access to me and to our team, and you can tag us in our 24/7 private community. You will get sales acceleration systems, the one that you will see in a second, strategic partnership frameworks, content multiplication systems. So both your sales and your marketing will be upgraded. You will have a superior business model because you get access to our recurring revenue models blueprints. And 90 days growth roadmaps that we update with you quarterly, and access to all templates and all playbooks. Those are the deliverables. And first 2 months are really about carving out that time so that you decouple yourself from the business, so that you have that breathing room, that creativity, that optionality to work on it and work, on partnerships, on licensing, on recurring models, on all these things that are more asset-like. By month 4, we want to improve your marketing. By month 6, your sales increases by 25 to 40%, usually. Now, the program that we're going to show you, you can already have a sneak peek if you want. We're going to show it later on. But if you want, you can check out this QR code. You will find already the page and registration. There is a sprinter incentive, so the sooner people join, the better the setup is for them, because our experience is that sprinters have the best results. So the people who act quickly on opportunities, they learn more, they deliver more, they build more, they learn more, they have more results. So here already for the early birds, if you want to check out all the details. And quickly back to you, Jay, before I go into all the details.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that. But everybody, don't fixate on our offer, because you can't know you want something until you know what its value is to you. So now Simon is going to systematically walk you through, with me making contextual additions, each of the progressive, I'll call them modules. He might call them something else, but the process components that drive the system that makes what he explained possible. And Simon, let's get started.
We start by going into 3 of those components, because in month 1 and 2, you see here each week needs to solve things to reduce complexity, to help you achieve more by doing less. In month 3 and 4, it's about leverage and amplifying and multiplying. But how are we going to actually do that? If we want to really cut out time and amplify what works and accelerate your sales by 25 to 40%, how are we going to do that? But first, who doesn't want more power? Just feel in your body, who doesn't want more power here? Who doesn't want more speed? Who doesn't want less weight? Who doesn't want less friction? You have a body answer right now. Who doesn't want less stress? If your body is screaming for it, have a look already at this 6 months program. And now let's go into it. So the expected results, carving out time, amplifying marketing, and accelerating your sales. And let me show you 3 elements of this. Simplify. How are we going to cut out your time, regain your time? Let me show you one example here that regains your time, because people say, I'm tired, I'm stretched too thin, I paused my mastermind, I've put my podcast on a hiatus, I've paused my launch, I'm losing confidence. Instead, we want you to say, when we meet you week by week in those sessions, Simon, I'm having some wins every week. Jay, I'm on fire. So how do we get there? Tool number 1 is made of 4 elements. The vision, having the creativity and the fun already while building it, having a plan, and having an execution system. Because without that, we're guessing, we're collapse, we're stretched too thin, we're tired. With them, we are on fire. How do we ensure? Because everybody wants that. But how do we ensure that you will have that in the first month? We call it the focus card. This is the scientific part behind it. I don't want to get too engineering, too nitty-gritty, but this is what's behind that. So if any of those 4 elements is missing, we're tired, we're stretched too thin, we're collapsed, we're guessing. So how do we get ourselves to be on fire and stay on fire? The focus card is the tool that we use since 23 years for big enterprises, mid-sized businesses, and solopreneurs. This is the highest leverage activities. We will ask you, make a list of all the things that are on your plate right now. And after 23 years of asking this question, let me show you the answer that 1,600 people gave us. On average, we get 72 projects. They don't call them projects. They say, those are the 72 things that I'm doing right now. I need to get LinkedIn better. I need to improve the website. I need to get more partners, promote our emails. I need to set up an affiliate marketing system. So they just tell us 72 things that they have to do. And yes, they have to do them. Many are maintenance tasks. Some of them, they are actually the 20% that move forward 80%. So we will ask them, all right, cut in half. And then they cut them in half. Then 36. And we ask, okay, please cut them in half again. Oh, but Simon, this is tough. Yeah, grab a T, cut them in half again. And they cut them in half again. We have now 18 most important projects. Already life feels much lighter, much lighter. But we're not done yet. Please cut them in half. Oh, Simon, once again? Yes. Of those 18, which are the really most important? And you guys, you know what happens, right? Yes, Robert, 111 projects, that's you. Yes, that's pretty realistic. Now, you know what happens when you have 18 projects and I ask you to cut them in half again. Inside of yourself, you start prioritizing by effort and impact. Then you start thinking about your clients. What do they really need right now? What are they screaming for? What's their bottleneck? What's my bottleneck? What's my team's bottleneck? Which resources do we have? Now you are doing the important work. And those 18 will be 9. So now we have 9 projects. And this is usually what happens after we start using the focus card. And we're not talking weeks, guys, nor months. We're talking hours. Usually this process is around 40 to 50 minutes of you cutting this down. And so in the same afternoon or in the same morning, you will have regained that time. You will have regained clarity. And that's step one. And when you have that clarity, we will have a few questions. That's why we meet you every week. And we have this 24/7 community together, because you will ask, you will say, okay, Simon, I've identified the 9, but how do I delegate this? And of course, we will help you delegating. And of course, we will answer your questions around, is this delegatable? Should I cut it or delegate it or outsource it? And we will work on that with you guys in the 24/7 community. So on average, 72 projects. And now you see, it's not magic. It's a process. It's a methodology. It's just thinking in first principle, what does really move the needle forward for you right now? There is not a cookie cutter solution. There isn't one strategy that works for all. That's why we come together every week, because each of you has a different businesses, different industry, different maturity level, different size, different structure, different business model. That's why we will help you in a very customized way to identify your 9. But the process is always the same, starting with 111 like Robert, or 72 like most people that I met, and then gradually boiling down which one are the 9 that are most important. Why 9? Because after 1,600 sprints, this is the number that a team can actually execute. Much more than that, and you can deliver. Less than that would be easier, but most teams cannot find less than 9 activities that really matter. So 9 is really that sweet spot with 9 projects. Now we are at month 2, and we have achieved already, we're in week 1 of the program, guys. So we have now clarity about what moves the needle forward really for you and what matters more out of everything. So noise became signal. You have now clarity about your 9 most important things. With them, we help you cut, delegate, outsource, give it to the AI, simplify, automate. And you see, it's not magic. It's just a process. This is how we come up with those things. It's just repetition and repetition and getting simpler and simpler with our processes over decades. Now, that was part 1. And maybe I was really, really fast. Maybe there are some questions right now in the chat that Brian, that you want to push to us.
Simon, let me make a couple of insights and throw a gauntlet at you. I think it's worthwhile as we do this to not just share the macro, but give some actual, I guess I'd call them concrete examples of what it will look like, because the macro is hard sometimes for people to grasp. So if you explain how we are going to do it, process, example, and every time you don't rush through, but make sure we actually do share a real case study that will help them see the implications as it progresses. So yeah, please, everybody who has a question throughout this, it's important, because I'm very committed to make sure by the end you understand there is a system here, a system that is infallible. Also, just for context, there's precedent you should all basically refer to, not here, but just well-documented precedent that confirms and supports this. First, there's a whole world of admirers of what's called theory of constraint. Theory of constraint says that there might be 1 million diversions, 1 million challenges, 1 million complexities in your business life, but there's usually 2 or 3, sort of like a log jam, that when you isolate what they are and you remove the jam log, everything else flows. There's 2 or 3 derivative books on the 80-20 rule that basically 20% of your activities really generate 80% of your results. And most people spend far too much time in the low yielding zone. If you look at the late Stephen R. Covey's work, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he created quadrants where he showed that, it's It's important, but not urgent. It's urgent, but not important. And he showed how most people don't really understand the power of effectiveness, productivity, and as a independent entrepreneur, which I believe most of you to be, you have to really grasp that because it's you against the world. How are you going to win? We want you to be victorious. We want you to be a victor, not a victim. And you can do a self-intervention anytime you want. And that's what this is all about. Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, let me show one very specific case. So Chanel and her husband, Robert, were running a company out of Switzerland. And when we started, we mapped out around 80 projects that they were having. They couldn't scale past 5 million. And there was kind of like an invisible glass ceiling there. They were stuck. And we mapped out their activities they were doing. They were sending emails. They were posting on LinkedIn. They were doing many things. But first of all, it was too many. So when we looked here, instead of those 9 activities, we had here around 90 activities. Let's say your 90 days. What's the most important for your 90 days? So we had a very long list with them. We went through, cleaned it up and said, okay, what's your current bottleneck, the actual bottleneck? If we look at attention, engagement, then making them ready to buy, then actually closing, retaining, and referrals. Which one was the bottleneck? We said, oh, you are great at getting attention. You are engaging them, but you are not making them ready to buy. So when they join your call, they are not ready to buy. And then your win rate is low. What's your win rate? We went through their win rate. It was 19%. So what we did is we knew the bottleneck. Now we went back to the drawing board. And here we just prioritized the activities that would solve that bottleneck. It was all around making them ready to buy. So we went to our toolbox. There are 5 tools that increase that readiness to buy. We got them 80% ready. How did we do that? With a specific email campaign, with a specific sales cadence, with a better script, sales script, and with a better technique. So we trained their 3 employees, and those activities we defined together here in a session that was around 30 minutes. So in 30 minutes, they went from totally overworked and hitting that ceiling to total clarity and having 3 most important activities plus 6 projects. So plus 6 very important activities, but the 3 were really solving the bottleneck. And in the theory of constraints, when you solve those 20%, the effect is 80%. That's why it's a bottleneck, because it means you improve that little part, but the overall throughput is 80%. And so those 3 things, we came up here. That's what's the most important thing for your next 90 days. But it doesn't stop here, because for each one, we have identified and we wrote it down in written. There was a tiny team, right? 2 people with 3 freelancers. And when you are such a tiny team, it's so important to focus your resources on the few things that really matter. And so those 3 activities were here. We will send this email campaign, we refined sales script, but each one had a weekly metric. So every Monday, the 2 of them would come together and look at the strategy and define experiments. Then their 3 freelancers would build that and test it until Friday. And every Friday, we would measure in the weekly dashboard what works. Week by week, they improved by sometimes it was 1%, sometimes it was 0.8%, sometimes it was 2%. And so this is how they quickly moved forward. One example, without boring you too much, on how we actually prioritize, cut your timeout. I see Brian.
I just wanted to mention an insight. Monica in the chat was saying, when you add value to your team becomes happier. And with a happier team, the quality of your time improves. So just great insight, Monica, and thanks for that. Back to you, Simon.
Absolutely. Yes. Thanks, Monica. And Monica knows this method, and so she has seen this. If it's Monica from Sweden, hello, Monica, and great to see you. And then she has seen this live, how the teams, they get much more aligned here, and they actually, oh yes, it's Monica from Sweden. Then this is what happens because they have fewer activities and they feel the impact every Friday because they get the numbers back, both the input and the output. So this is how many people I called and this is how many deals I closed. You need both sides. And before that, you're guessing, and that's why energy dissipates. But after that, you are tight. You know exactly what the inputs are. I need to call 16 people per day. And you know what the outputs are. I closed 2 deals. That's $217,000. So when you have your input tights and your output measured, now you have flow. So you're doing something, you're getting your feedback back. And that's the scientific method. This is what gives you that energy that you need. Part 2, second case. Now we are in month 3. So we have saved you time, but that's not enough, right? We want to accelerate sales. How do we get to acceleration of sales? Part 2 is working on your marketing, your positioning, your messaging. This is usually where Jay and I can find so much optimization. Let me show you some examples. So month 2, we meet every week and you tell us about your marketing and you show us your marketing calendar, your marketing plan, your posts on LinkedIn, your emails, and we go there and optimize them with you. So each week we will optimize some parts of your current marketing. And again, if you want to go and grab your seat, make it quickly, you can make a picture of this and check it out. The tool that I want to share with you, the case study, is the 10 by 10. So there was this team from North America, and they were saying, we hate marketing because it's not doing anything. We are putting in a ton of work, but it's not doing anything. It's not making us money. And so we don't like activities that we cannot monetize. And I feel totally with people because you don't just do marketing for branding. You do marketing to attract your ideal client and to attract them in a way that brings the right people. It pushes away the wrong people. And it really attracts like a magnet the right people to you. So how do you do that? What we did with this North American team was, okay, guys, what's your marketing plan? And it was just a list. Instead of that list, we said, what if we backward engineer in a different way? Tell me the 10 pain points that your clients have right now. And by pain, we mean really they're frustrated, they're tired, they're pissed about something. They are really bodily uncomfortable right now. It's a hair on fire problem, not a nice to have. It's not something discretionary. It's an essential current frustration. So we wrote down their 10 problems. Here is an example. My pipeline is drying up. I want more passive income. How get I paid the prices that I want? Okay. And of course, nowadays with AI, you can do this quickly, but most of you are immersed in your lives, in your clients' lives. And so you know them. That's the comments that you get, the questions that you get, the emails that you get. So 10 pain points. And then for each, we started creating one evergreen piece of content. Now you might say, well, that's a normal content calendar. Well, are you sure? First of all, double check your last 5 posts that you did on LinkedIn or on X or on YouTube. How much from 1% to 100% did you directly address a hair on fire problem versus something that you're guessing, something that you think is a hair on fire problem, or something that's maybe a nice to have? But this is really positioning and messaging. So it's at the intersection of what are you uniquely the best at solving for them and what is the most pressing issue for them. So another half an hour invested here made such a difference for these North American teams. They had now much more poignant, much more touching, really deeper resonance on their content. Their content was just hitting much harder now. And the next step was, this is why Edward, who runs GTD for David Allen in the UK, said, hey guys, this is for the worried wealthy because they're doing too much. Yes, they're maybe crushing it in revenues, but not in profits and not in life satisfaction, not in happiness, not in overall being content and joyful and creative. Because the next step is then breaking down those 10 things into what we call the refinery. Because if you do your marketing, you have no time for anything else. And the refinery changes that. Many of you are small teams. You have a limited set of resources, and you shouldn't spend on marketing. That's our philosophy anyways. Much rather, we want to have you getting paid for your marketing. And you will see that in the program. We will show you how to monetize your newsletter, your content. Even if you have a small subscriber base, we can show you how to get paid for your marketing. And I got paid this January for a brand new blog that I started with just 60 subscribers. And they're paying $600 now to get the full content. So just 60 subscribers, guys. Everybody here in the room can have or has more than 60 subscribers. You can already monetize your marketing. So the refinery makes sure that you're not wasting too much time on it. Because you will see here, okay, I made this content piece, and now a freelancer or a software or an AI can go and turn this into a YouTube, into an email, into a post, into an article on your own proprietary blog, into an article on a LinkedIn blog. Yes, Jay?
Excuse me for interrupting, but everybody, a lot of what Simon will share will need to be extrapolated. For example, you may not be the person who either does or wants to do all the content. So just adapt it in your mind, no matter what kind, size, scope of business you run. Somebody should be doing that for you because you do want a presence online. Somebody should be really doing it. Your job is to adapt everything Simon says to wherever you are on the business continuum, because I do not do my own content. I think I give people the topics and let them do the content. So, I mean, don't get hung up in a linear thinking mode with what he's sharing, because he's going to share an empirical way he does it frequently with his clients. But we have represented every kind of business. And so you might be B2B, you might be a different kind. You still are going to want to do this. So do not ever get limited in your appreciation for the power of the concept that is being shared.
Yes, thank you. And, you know, this specific case was this team was paying for marketing. They weren't happy with the results, and their team was putting too much time in it for the limited results. And so to answer Robert's question, if I have 60 subscribers, I can do what? And by subscribers, does that mean customers? First of all, they're subscribers, and most of you guys, you're paying for marketing and you're putting a ton of time. So the first shift will be being less dependent on other platforms and being more in your proprietary content, your proprietary assets. And one asset can be your blog, and one asset can be your IP, and your one asset can be your licensed IP, and one asset can be turning your business into a franchise, and one asset can be owning the property where your stores are, and one asset. So Jay has hundreds of examples in his body of work about what assets are already right now in your business that you're not leveraging, that you're not even seeing or using enough. In this case, it was about from paying for marketing to, first of all, not pay for marketing, and second, to getting paid for marketing. And the second shift is owning that marketing. So your proprietary knowledge that only you can leverage in terms of IP, but if another third-party network wants to change anything, you own it. So nothing happens to your IP, you still own it, and you control what happens with your IP. So in that case, we use the refinery. And I wanted to show you the refinery so that you see nitty-gritty instead of, you know, our high-level ideas, how these tools work. They're very practical. They work in your system, whatever you're using, they work. And Brian, do you have a question before I move on to the
Simon,
third part?
I actually wanted to speak to this spreadsheet. The first time I saw some of the tools that Simon used, I was like, whoa, there is a lot here. And having worked with Simon, Simon has been able to break down complexity into very easy, understandable, bite-size pieces. So, my only comment is I remember my first impression of being a little bit overwhelmed with the tools he was putting on the screen. And then when he broke it down, I felt so comfortable and I understood every part of it. And I was like, oh, I see how I can use this. So I just want to let you know, Simon's really great at breaking things like this down into easy, understandable chunks. Yes, Jay.
Yeah, and just for for I guess clarification, Simon's a deep thinker, and Brian is right. If you see the mechanisms, they can seem intimidating, but the key is it all gets torqued down to lowest common denominator. Most people grasp the magnitude of what I teach, but if you understood the complexity, the sophistication, the nuances that go into it to end up being able to explain it in simple terms, you would be mind boggled. But I don't give you all the process that it went through. He is actually showing you how his mind has built this, but please be assured that over the course of the 6-month process, it's very, very simplified. You will get, by the way, and he didn't say this, and I didn't say this, we don't want a big group. This is a pilot just to demonstrate to the world that we can take a diverse spectrum of different kinds of businesses, and in the course of 6 months or less, we can transform their lives so that every week, a very specific engagement occurs where it's totally interactive. If we have 15 of you, we'll be happy. We don't want 100 like some of our contemporaries. This is not a big money-making endeavor to start with. It's a validating and success producing necessity for us so that we can really take it to the world in its full magnitude and its full price. But continue, Simon. And as you do it, please do help people see how the macro is executed in more specific terms, because I always listen in advocacy for the audience, and I feel, okay, we're going to get you to do this. I always want to know, how are you going to do it? And what's the process that will make it almost result certain that I will indeed be able to do it. I will indeed produce the outcome you are advocating, promising, and that I will be building this integrated system that by the time the 6 months is over, I will be totally transformed. So please make sure that we don't unintentionally pass on it, because we understand it so well, but I want to make sure, as the advocate of the consumer, that we always bring it down to concreteness.
Yes. So the process is straightforward. 6 months, weekly sessions. In those weekly sessions, you guys tell us what the bottleneck is and we solve it with you. In order to do that in a very time efficient way, so we have up to 274 templates and time saving tools that we will quickly utilize so that you solve your bottlenecks faster. But all the hundreds of people here have different bottlenecks. So each week we come together and we solve one bottleneck together after the other. One example of that, if your marketing is the bottleneck, then tools like the refinery will help you, because the first thing that the refinery did for this North American team was their content now was hitting harder. Their content was actually landing and bringing people on their calendar. Before the refinery, they were just spraying and praying, but that content wasn't bringing the right people. It was bringing some people, but not the ideal client, not the right people for the right reason at the right moment. These are the three problems in marketing. Are you really pulling in every week people that schedule a call with you that are the right people for the right reasons at the right moment? Most usually not. one of those three is usually the bottleneck, and the refinery solved it for this North American team. We have many other tools, but the point is that by month 4, we want you to have a positioning that's preeminent. When people think about your core topic where you're the best, they think of you. They think, oh, what would Tom say? What would Tom say about this? So you are installed as the preeminent expert, the trusted person that they think about. And that's what happens in month 3 and 4. So not only your messaging, your positioning, your offer, your pricing is absolutely optimized, but also it's already driving more revenue, because we will need this for the acceleration that happens in the next 2 months. Now, each of you is in a different maturity stage, different industry, so it will be different. But these are some examples of what we did. And that's why we will meet every single week, because things change. And so maybe in this week, in the first week, we solve a specific bottleneck, but next week, a new bottleneck pops up. Things are dynamic and the macro is changing. So in each week, that's why we come together every week. Plus, you have 24/7 access to us. You can tag us and say, hey, this is my email campaign. Can you criticize it? Can you improve it? And it's going to happen. It's going to happen in our community. So, want to check the details, make a photo of this, and you will see all the details already if you want to join already before the others join. And I'm going to share part 3, which is now one selected tool about compounding. How can we make sure that your knowledge compounds?
Stop for a minute, please. I'm sorry. So let's get a little deeper into the concept of core asset or revenue launched. I think that has to be more concretely denominated so people understand what our goal is in their behalf in that period. So why don't you go back for a minute and let's just talk more about what is a core asset, what is, in our opinion, revenue launch. What's that mean, and what should they grasp? Because I believe it's a little abstract.
Okay, so before that module, your content is just like everybody else's content. It doesn't hit home. It doesn't stop me in my tracks when I see it. It doesn't speak to me deeply, and it doesn't move me on the inside. Also, in between your emails, I don't think about you. I don't think about you when your topic pops up. I don't think, what would Bob say? What would Laura say? So I don't have you internalized as the preeminent thinker about that topic. In those 2 months, we will make sure that you go so deep in understanding your current client's need, the people that you're here to serve, that you understand so well what the current hair on fire problem is, and that you have 10 times 10 content pieces hitting them from all sides. So you have created preeminence now. And whenever they have, let's say you're a pricing expert, whenever you have the pricing problem, they think about you. What would Jay say about this pricing problem? Now they will hop on your call. The next bottleneck that we need to solve is, how do you make them 80% ready before they are on your call? And so in these 2 months, we will work on your messaging, positioning, but also on that nurturing campaign that makes them ready so that when they talk to you, they're actually ready to buy from you. Most objections, because you know the objections now, because that's the work of understanding the client. What are their questions? What are their worries? What have they experienced in the past that they don't want to experience again? They got burned with other suppliers, with other offers, with other advisors. What do they not want to repeat? So that's the job of marketing. It's not just to post, but it's actually to pick them up at their bus stop, to create that preeminence so that you know exactly, oh, this is what they are best at. What would they do right now? And then from there, now you have turned your expertise into actual deep hitting messages. And those messages being email, LinkedIn, X, whatever you select as being your primary channels, your partnerships, your partners will know how to refer you, because now you have the positioning and the messaging that makes it easy for somebody who serves the same people, but with an adjacent complementary offer to refer people to you. Now you can start building partnerships and improving your partnerships because now you have actual win-win-win situations. I can send people to you because your positioning is clear. You can send people to me because my positioning is clear. You can build downstream partnerships and upstream partnerships.
And Simon, another, I'm just making notes for myself. Another thing to recognize when he says content, you need to have a flexible definition. You might not be an information marketer. You might be someone selling B2B, but you're still going to have selling communications. They can be your follow-up. They can be your funnel or equivalent. You might have salespeople, but just don't get stuck with a construct that might be focused more on people that are selling online, because all of you need to have communications that are more powerful, whether they be scripts, whether they be value added, whether they be video that you or an operative execute. So every time Simon explains something, please be able to see how it applies, adopts to you. And as you continue, I'm going to take 1 minute. I am home and I'm going to get another coffee, but continue, Simon. But please, please, please always remember to help them see it in the most concrete application and see how we are going to do it. Because I think if you understand, I'm talking not to you, Simon, to them, if they understand not just what our promise is in each session, but the method we are going to use to help you, and the reason we only want a small group so that we can interact, but it's not just, hey, we're going to get you 14 hours. If you explain to them a little more concretely how we're going to do it, specifically through the interaction, through the direction, through the very proprietary processes we have developed for each week, I think that'll make it even more exciting. And always remember, everybody, you are free when you're done today. It should all couple together as an integrated system. And if you're very adroit at applying it yourself, that makes us happier than if nobody applies it. We would like to apply it with you for a dozen of you so that we can get some very extraordinary documented success stories. And we have some really interesting ones who just saw the outer periphery of this, but that's just my intervention. And everybody, this is the very first time we've ever done this together. So I'm charged with trying to make sure that I am your advocate. So Simon knows when I intervene, it's just to make it come alive, and the full magnitude, the value, and the importance of this really is felt by everyone. Continue, Simon.
So now we have cut out some times, we have improved messaging, but how do we make sure that you actually stay focused and stay laser sharp? This is our habits calendar. Another example, very practical example, and this is how Phyllis is using it, Andrew is using it, Neil Farimond is using it. So Neil is in Portugal, Andrew is in California, Phyllis is in Texas, in different countries. And I am in Vienna and I'm using it myself. I would have not completed the building of this program with Jay and the building of the workbooks with Jay without it. Why? Because you're excited when you start something, but what makes sure that you actually keep on consistently being focused? And when the excitement goes down, you still push through and break through and deliver something amazing to the world. Because we are all very creative persons if we start a business, right? So this is the example of how we broke down this. This is the method. We ask ourselves, which of the things that I'm doing, if I just select 4 of them, will massively move my business forward? Just 4, if I do them every day. So they selected their 4 things. For me, one of them was book, right? And it's still right there. And then you see now it's about making it small enough that you can do it every day, but also seeing the progress. Because when you have that streak, now you get more motivation to do it again. If there is no streak, you're not going to do that. So some people wrote in here, I want to make 3 introductions every day before lunch, because making introductions was hard for them. After a week, they were running out of ideas who to introduce to whom. Other people wrote in here, I want to land 1 new big strategic partnership. So the input was every day, I'm gonna write down 1 ideal partner and offer them a partnership. Can be a revenue split, can be an embedded offer. But the process is this, where on 1 page in front of you, you had exactly the task that you selected, the why, because there will be some weeks where the motivation goes down and it's not exciting anymore. So the problem in that week is, I start avoiding it. I start the next thing rather than finishing this thing. And so this tool made sure for Phyllis, for Neil, for myself, for Andrew, and for many more, that we actually stay in the lane that we have cut for ourselves in the focus card. So every day, this little helper right here in front of us helps us stay focused instead of starting the new thing, actually going deeper into the current things. Because there is this huge danger of starting too many things again, right? We have focused down. Now we stay on them. We go deeper and deeper and deeper. Make sure that you create more and more value for your current clients. And they are so happy that they start bringing you new clients rather than hopping onto the newest and latest and being influenced by starting too many things. Because that's one out of our many, many, many execution projects. That's one of the dangers when we execute, that we either stop executing or start too many new things before this is already hit bringing home many, many hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Jay, before we move on to the program, anything about this here? Is this a method?
This is interesting. Yes, it looks intimidating, but very sophisticated people and very unsophisticated people, when they understand it, have been blown away. I think it's very important. And one of the reasons I'm doing this with Simon is it's a total divergence from what I normally do. And it's a really wonderful experiment that I'm thrilled to invite those of you on, whether it's with us or on your own, because I see so many SMBs particularly who basically are out of control and they're working so hard. And Simon nailed something very important in the beginning. Somebody called it the wealth. What is it? The wealthy what, Simon? What do they call that? The wealthy.
The worried wealthy.
Yeah. So what, by that, and it was a prominent expert, but what he was saying is you're making money, but you're never, ever extricated from the morass of worrying daily when you get home in the middle of the night, the next day. And I see people self-limiting all they can do. And I come at it in my normal body of work, looking at exponential performance. But what I've learned very sadly is the majority of people who learn something never do something. The few that do something never optimize. The few that optimize never maximize. And just as an intervention, optimizing is making it the best it could. Maximize is the biggest. Now, that sounds a little counterintuitive when you're talking about relieving yourself of activities, concentrating more on specific, higher yielding ways to have the business work harder for you than you work for it. But what it really means is the exact thing. Where is your highest and best use in terms of both serving your business's success? Well, 3 things: serving your market's benefit, and then serving your life success. And life success is a very complex and fascinating issue. It has to do with psychic wealth, fulfillment. It has to do with balance, the ability to walk out of the door, maybe not turn it off entirely, but not obsess 24/7. It has to do with the ability to take in fresh knowledge that can't be received if you're consumed with today and yesterday's problem. It has to do with not being controlled ED, but being in control. And that control is unimaginably powerful. So I just want to make these comments that whatever Simon shows, when you see it without context, and context means when you're not experiencing the weekly session where he explains it, he distills it down. I'll be there as well. I've got a couple of times I'm out of the country, but other than that, number two is he then gives you an exercise, a specific exercise that takes that macro concept, translates it directly to you. It produces an outcome that you can then easily apply, implement, act upon. That's the big idea I want you to grasp from this. That's it.
Thank you, Jay. Yes. So, and we're getting messages that Susanne says that's one of my key weaknesses: starting too many things, having too many excellent ideas and things I want to do. Yes. And each week there is new opportunities. There is 17 new AIs that can do something for us. Which one should we do? We will help you stay with the signal, not with the noise, because there are so many opportunities, but the only ones that will break you through your revenue barriers are the ones that actually you have selected on your focus card. And the only way we stay on it is if we have these helpful tools that keep us focused on the big prize, right? Otherwise, we stretch ourselves too thin again. Robert has a realization. I'm in operator identity rather than morphing into the strategic architect identity. Yes, this is what Jay's body of work has always been. Finding that strategic thinking where you see the exponential opportunities, you see the assets in your business, and you start actually leveraging them, monetizing them. And not just one, but let's say you have your expertise making revenue in one way, then you can add subscriptions on top of it. You can license the IP, you can turn it into a franchise, you can turn it into royalties, you can add passive and residual income on top of that. And all of these things will happen in the third month. So in the third month, after we have, make sure that you have now 14 hours per week more available to do this exact strategic work that Robert is talking about. Now that our message actually is pulling in the right people for the right reason at the right time. Now our calendar is filled with ideal clients. They're ready to buy. They know what we're doing. They know that it is expensive. They know that it's the right thing for them, that it will catapult their life and their business forward. Now we go into revenue optimization. And this is the most customized part of the program. We have a ton of buffer space in there because each week you guys will tell us what's actually needed in your business. And so each week we will not bring you the cookie cutter solutions from other fields, but we will actually stay with you on your current bottlenecks, and we will help them break through one of them after the other. So month 5 to 6 are actually the most customized one, where we will mainly listen to you guys and go to your business challenges right now, so that whatever was the core messaging now can really be monetized, and your revenue should grow by 25 to 40%. This is where all of Jay's tools really hit home, and also our tools really hit home, because now we can make much bigger deals. You can really start having bigger partnerships. You can start having bigger deals at the prices you want and the conditions you want with the people you want. Because we got rid in the first 2 months of many things that were not 100% your ideal client, your best clients, and your biggest deals. Now it's time to fill that with exactly that. So The method is printing. We'll make it small and we'll make it weekly. According to Marshall Goldsmith, this is what funds your freedom, because without it, you are actually always chasing the next task. We will make sure that time poor is a thing of the past, and time rich and actually an enjoyable business that creates cash flow. It also makes you happy. And when you go to dinner, when you go to your spouses and to your family and to your friends, that you are actually a very enjoyable person because you had that fulfillment already during the day. You're not chasing it for something that comes later, but you're actually enjoying right now working with the people that you have chosen to serve, helping them actually break through their problems. And that gives you back that moment of being content and that meaning and that cash flow that changes us from time poor to time rich. You now control how you spend your time, with whom you spend your time, what the deal size is, how many deals you have, and where do you scale them, across which industries, across which adjacent countries, in which way, through licensing, through franchising, through subscriptions, through multiple cohorts. So many opportunities now that make you time rich because they are not anymore tied to your time. Your knowledge can now create impact and transformation out there without you being tied to actually delivering it, or your team being too much tied to actually delivering it. So freeing up your time. Yeah.
Stop for a minute. Explain to everybody why you don't have month 3, 5, etc. On your, the chart. I don't want people to think, well, why is there only these? What about the in between? So just you've shared what the goal is, but I think it's very important to not jump from, you're not going to go from step 2 to step 4. So explain either what you haven't explained or give a little more context to month 3, month 5, etc.
Thank you. Yes. We have to build the foundations first. So there are a few things that are mandatory and we have to build the foundation. So we have to free up your time. That's why prioritizing, reducing the number of activities, making sure that they actually build upon each other. That's a given. There is a few things that we have to do, and they work in every industry at every maturity level. That's prioritizing, it's finding your bottleneck, and that's creating your plan, your individual plan to attack that bottleneck. That we must do. And so for that, we have already the process, and that's a given. Same thing for marketing. Your marketing, positioning, messaging needs to hit home, needs to pull in the right people. Now that we have that, this part will be absolutely customized. We are not bringing cookie cutter solutions, but we're actually changing and evolving month 5 and 6 based on what makes you actually breakthroughs, because it will change, it will evolve. Things, that's 3 months from now. So we start in 5 days. That's 4 months, 5 months from now. Things will change, and we will adapt to those changes and take on those changes with you, because the world will change 3 times up to there. And we want to have that breathing room and to build adaptively with you, because that's how Jay and I work. We listen to what is happening in your life, and we actually go there and solve those current breakthroughs, and they will shift and they will change. So, and sales is very different for you. Some of you sell to B2C, some to B2B. Some have tickets that are 70, 50,000, some have 200,000, some have 80,000, some have 8,000. So those things will be very, very customized, will be done with you rather than just the training. The training part is only the very minimum, the very beginning, but then really it's about solving your breakthroughs. So breaking through your bottlenecks, whatever they are. That's why it's more and more customized. And after the foundations are here, after you have your priority, your team is aligned, you have full on clarity about what your bottleneck is and how to break through that. And now you have a very clear marketing plan. You have selected your channels. You have optimized your channels. Now we go to sales. You have a very clear sales script. You have a very clear process, who does what in your sales team. Now the next part is customized, because some of you will have the sales bottleneck now in filling the pipeline, but some will have it into closing and winning the deal. And some others will have to find a better pricing, and we have to work on the packaging and the offer. And that's why the month 5 and month 6 are more customized. Does that answer your question, Jay?
Okay. All right. And I want everyone to know, because I would really like to challenge you to share more case studies, because I think not just my big advocacy for our viewer listener audience, the SMBs, the larger companies, the startups, is I want them to see exactly how we achieve this for them, not just the outcome, but the specific processes we have developed. So in other words, if we're going to help your message be so much better, what is the mechanism we are going to use? You and I know that, but I'm not sure they fully grasp it. And I think it's much more liberating and comforting and appealing when they know what we're going to do and they can mentally validate. That makes so much better sense than the way I'm doing it. But I need to make another comment. I'm thinking, as I'm listening to this and I'm reflecting on what most people do and have done and probably will do the rest of their business life, it reminds me of Einstein's definition of insanity. If you keep doing more of the same thing that is not producing the outcome you want, that is called insanity by Einstein. Tony talks about a Dickens pattern. A Dickens pattern is it's modeled after Charles Dickens' and Christmas Carol, with Ebenezer Scrooge and the ghosts of Christmas, past, current, future, where they show you, Simon and everybody, here's what it's been like, even if you've not recognized it in its painful truth in the past. Here's what it's like right now, whether you recognize that or not in its painful truth. Sort of the same Einstein. Here's what it'll be like in the future if you don't massively shift your actions, your interactions, your whole basis. And it's very important for me, for everybody here, to realize, if the concept of wanting and needing and achieving more time freedom to use far more, to invest, use the word invest, for far greater yield in any return, any ROI category that is valuable to you, whether it's financial, whether it's growth, whether it's the value of the business you want to sell, whether it's your personal life, whether it's your health, whether it's your family relationships, your love life, your hobbies, then you have to think, what's it been like? What is it like? What will it be like if nothing different happens? And what is the toll it takes on me? Because it wears you out. It destroys your creativity. Energy is a fuel for creative thinking, for innovative thinking, for breakthrough thinking. But I think, Simon, the more you can help them see that it's not just we're going to do this with you, but how exactly are we going to do it in some of these sessions, and more examples that will help them see very clearly the impact, but also the process. Because most people, I've learned in my 50 years of doing this, they can believe you, but unless they understand the reason why, the mechanism you're going to use, and they can mentally validate that that's doable for them, they're going to reject it because they don't see themselves capable, or it's too abstract, or it's too intimidating. And we don't want any of that for anybody.
No, let's give them more cases, and feel free to share also some cases. Let me start, and you can also share some cases from your work. So, yeah. For example, there is this software company. They're making 6 million right now. It's a B2B software company in the US, and they sell to hotels. Now, the breakthrough, the problem here was that the way they price. So in the end, we have to optimize the whole sales process, but the bottleneck is in a different stage. So for this software company, The bottleneck was really the win rate. So they talked to 10 people, they only closed 3. That was the problem. And so in this stage, that's why it's customized. In this stage, we have to solve for the win rate. How did we solve for the win rate? Run 2 experiments. One was how they charge, and the other was when they charge. And so we ran 2 experiments, 2 weeks, and in the second week, it solved it for them because there are 7 ways to charge. The first one is to charge for time, etc. But I don't want to put out here another tool. It might be too much. But there are 7 ways to charge. We tested 2. They break through it in the second week. You can charge for time, you can charge for outcomes, you can charge for results, and there are 7 nuances of that. So in that case, we hear that your win rate is low. You tell us the percentage. We give you the tool that changes the way you charge and the moment you charge. You can charge earlier, you can charge later, you can charge better, you can revenue split. So we have hundreds of solutions for you. But first, we have to listen to what is right now going on with you. Where is the monetization not happening, and where does it make the most difference for you right now? And then we will pull that. So this is one example. In this case, the win rate was the bottleneck. The way they charge changed it. And if you want, you can share some examples, Jay, or I can share another example.
No, it's okay. Let me give you examples from Mike, and I have so many I gotta dredge them up. So the first thing I do with anybody is look at correlations. I look at correlations, implications, anomalies. For example, if you had a business that was very heavily driven by referral, word of mouth, I'd want to look at where your referrals are coming from. If 20% of your referrals are of 20% of the people referring are generating 80% of your referrals, I'd want to spend a lot more time, effort, investment on those people. But you wouldn't know that if you don't look at the correlation. All leads aren't worth the same. All ads aren't worth the same. All product buyers aren't worth the same. And if you don't know, as an example, the not just the lifetime value, but the aggregate implication of different first-time buyers, if assuming you sell other product services or the same product over and over again, you can't possibly invest wisely in anybody. We did one time, just to give you the kind of wild example, I had the largest driving school in Japan as a client for a while. And when I looked at the business, they were making like $1,000 a student. Nobody bought anything else. It was very hard to find them. Marketing was almost impossible because all their market was 19 to 26, and then nobody was interested. But they never looked at some other implications. I did. The implications we looked at showed us that half of the people that got their license never drove. It was just a badge of honor. Half of the people that got a license never bought a car. They just rented on the weekends and holidays. And with that single piece of heretofore unrealized information, I basically figured out that the real opportunity wasn't the little amount of money they were making one time with no repeat from the students. It was being in the driving in the rental car business. So we made alliances with the rental car company, and that massively improved their profit by orders of magnitude. But there were only 3 facilities in Tokyo. They weren't anywhere in Japan other than that. So we took the relationships we had and we offered them on a rev share to every other driving school outside of our market. And that just killed. But it's looking at things, and what we will do during this process is provide methodologies that make it easy for you to learn what you've already known but never recognized. It will give you ways to have the data speak and tell you what to do, what not to do, where the biggest opportunities lie. But it's through processes, not just saying, okay, we're going to get you this. If you don't know that we have the the ability and the proprietary methodologies ourselves to get you what we promise every month, and to do it in a way that it is comfortable and exciting for you to embrace that process, you can't appreciate what we're doing. And it's I always analogize it to a bullet train. In week one, it's going to be just getting your sea legs, so to speak. Week two, it's going to go a little bit faster, a little bit more of an upward trajectory. But if you've ever ridden a bullet train in Japan, or I don't know if they have in Europe and China, they start slow. They're going 20, 30 miles an hour. But by the time you're at peak, you're at something like 300, and it's pretty profound. My whole life has been dedicated to asymmetric upside, outsized performance, but minimizing or eliminating the downside. In terms of this application, which is a very unique dual interpretation of Simon's methodology, incorporated with those parts of mine that support it best, we are showing you how to, first of all, unshackle yourself from low yielding, high consuming, time wasting or minimizing, not minimizing, but diminishing activities, and replace them with things that are going to get you so much more today, but also tomorrow, in terms of revenue, profit, success, growth. But you're not going to have to do the heavy lifting. One of my very, very, very impressive mentor partners years ago said, most entrepreneurs dig holes. The first question is, should you be digging a hole or holes? If the answer is yes, the next question is, should you be digging those holes where you're digging them? If the answer is no, then the question is, where should you be digging them and why? And the last is, how? Should you be using a spoon or a power shovel? And I think I like metaphors because they demonstrate more powerfully the message that us in this case, are trying to convey. But I also like to intervene on ourselves. We've never shared this thesis. We've never shared this method. We want you to understand and not just know we would love a few of you to be collaborators with us, but we want you to see it for yourself so that you see that and you challenge yourself. You do your own interventional reality check. You ask, is this the way I want to continue living my entrepreneurial life? And maybe the answer is yes. Some people thrive on highly acute stress and intensity. They need to always be on the precipice of disaster and save the day for them to feel compelled. Their business defines who they are. And if that's you, you might not really desire, appreciate, or even benefit. Maybe your health will go the wrong way if you're one of those rare people whose whole health is driven by anxiety and stress. But if you're not, then what we're sharing, once you appreciate that there is very concrete process method to the madness of what we're saying, and there is a mechanism every week that is designed to very specifically make it easy for you to achieve that week's objective, and that by adding and combining each objective, module, process, by the end of the 6 months, our intention is that you will be here. Now, just like one size doesn't fit all with a dress and a woman, one macro interpretation can't possibly fit every one of your diverse scenario-specific situations. So how you will implement it, how you will apply it, how you will interpret it is going to differ. But what should not differ is the end game. By the end of the 6 months, if you do your part, and it is yours to lose, because we will do ours, your business should transform. How it transforms will be a function of what you ultimately decide you want to control. You might want better control on your business time so you can be the strategist. You might want better control on your health time so that you can lose weight, get your cholesterol down, strengthen your heart. You might want better control if you've got young children, or just if you're trying to enrich your relationship with whomever your significant others are. You might want travel time. It's interesting. There is a psychologist, a deceased psychologist, I'm trying to think what his first name was, Skinner, and he believed people don't have free will. I believe everybody has free will, and it's yours to lose. But I believe once we learn, if we don't know that we have optionality and we have choices and we have other ways to do things, to look at things, then there's no shame in continuing the way you are. But once you learn that you do have options, you do have free will, you do have the ability to control many more parts of your business life and your personal life and your physical life and your relational life, then if you decide that you don't like where you're at right now, you can change it. I always say, once you know that there are methodologies to achieve it, we are mostly when we don't know how to do it, then we're prisoners of not ignorance, but of naivete. When we know there are methodologies that can deliver it, then we are pretty much where we're at, because that's where we want to be. I always said, once you realize there's plenty of ways to grow a business safely, if you decide you're not going to employ them, it's because you're comfortable where you are and the way you're doing it. If you decide there's ways to lose weight and you don't use them because it's not that important to you, you're there because that's where you want to be. So I just think you need to think about two things. There's three messages here. One is there is plenty of demonstrable proof, whether it's 80-20, whether it's theory of constraint, whether it's Einstein talking about insanity, that continuing to do it a certain way is not going to produce the breakthroughs you want. And breakthroughs can be financial breakthroughs, it can be freedom breakthroughs, it can be whatever criteria and denominator and category of breakthroughs you most value. And you're not I'm not Simon's not Brian, so it's going to uniquely differ for each of you. But you need to know that, first of all, you have options. You have free will. Second, there is a process that can get you that freedom. And the process is designed to help you also with some of the things I do. It's a different application, so it's not the depth that I would do when I do, $250,000 consults or go deep into one of my exponential growth categories, because it's more focused on giving you control of the rest of your business and personal life. And that we have developed a mechanism, a process, a system for you that if you embrace it, every week you'll make progress. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. And now let's say Jay gives us, during the program, he gives you this prompt. And the prompt is, hey guys, find out if you are digging the holes at the right place or at the wrong place. So this will take you 25 minutes, use this process, and he gives us the process. Now we have 24/7 community access. And there is something special about this community that I have to share before I forget it. But this is the reason why we come together, first of all, in weekly sessions, because most masterminds are not weekly and most programs are not weekly. But we need this frequency and this intensity here to be really, really on the pulse of what's going on in your life and in your business, because we want to tackle it immediately. And so when I give you a prompt, when Jay gives you a prompt and he says, this is the prompt, find out if you're digging the right holes or the wrong holes, takes you 25 minutes, this is the process, we will put it in the community, we'll send it to you, you do it, and you immediately give us the first feedback. So this is the scientific process for your business. You experiment this, you bring it to your place, 20 minutes later, you give us already feedback. Guys, this is what I tried, this is the holes that I'm digging, it's the wrong hole. How do I get to the right hole? And then we put in the next tool. That's why we have the 24/7 community access. And yeah, before I forget, what is the special thing about this particular community? Jay and I are doing this cohort for the first time. And if you have been in a first-time cohort, you know, and I can tell you, that we are much more accessible, attentive, available, and reachable in the first cohort than later on when we have multiple cohorts running, just for numeric reasons, right? In this cohort, we are trying to tighten everything in a way that really, really scales for you guys. So we are much faster. If you tag me in our private community, in the first cohort, I probably answer in the same hour, sometimes after 10 minutes. And when we have later on multiple cohorts, it might take hours or days before I can answer. So in this case, it's something special to be in cohort number 1 because we're much more attentive, available, and excited, frankly, about it, because it's the first time that we're doing this in this format with this group of collaborators that you might become in a few moments. So yes, the systems, but the systems at the right moment for the right problems that you have. Yes, the strategic partnerships framework, because you don't have to do all of the pipeline filling on yourself. You can leverage so many partners and opportunities, and we will make it easy for you to find them and attract them and have the agreements with them. The content will hit home much, much harder and deeper when you send something. And if you don't send an email or your team doesn't send an email for a week, people will say, hey, where is it? I'm missing it, because it was so good. It was so helpful. It was exactly what I needed. I feel heard. I feel understood when you send me that email. And the recurring revenue models, which make sure, what Robert and many of you say it in the chat, that you don't want live a life built on labor, strain, and linear effort. You want to live a life that is orchestration, collaboration, and yield. Yield also when you are not doing the work. The real-time roadmaps will be actualized with you, because some of you, that's our experience, will solve bottlenecks already after 3 weeks. Some others will be in the 6th week solving their first bottleneck. That's why those roadmaps, they grow with you. They're updated with you. You make your 90 days roadmap, and then it's a living thing that sometimes changes already after 2 weeks because you solved it. You pick the next bigger thing, and sometimes not. And sometimes it takes longer. And so you stay the whole 90 days with your roadmap before you pivot. But the really important things is planning is not important. The plan changes far too quickly. Plans are not important. The planning process is, and it must be simple. It must be easy for you to change whenever you want to change it. And it shouldn't take more than 10 minutes to change the whole thing. That's why our tools are simple and save you time. And that's why you have access to all the tools, but some tools will be much more beneficial. Go, Jay.
Excuse me. And they are simpler in explanation, application, when we spend an entire session helping you lowest common denominator, understand and apply it. If you looked, I mean, it's interesting. If you looked behind, I was listening to an ad for Amco, the company that does transmission work, and they said, you know, a transmission has 830 some parts, moving parts. And I thought, Jesus, that would intimidate the crap out of me. But you know, we see it. You apply. You know that when a transmission is a mechanism with a torque converter that takes all the power of the engine and makes it usable in the best way for the vehicle. Well, we're talking about simplifying it when you get to the weekly applications. Now, I don't want to divert too much, Simon, because I think we should both hasten through the rest, but also make sure that we don't overwhelm them by having it be too abstract. And where possible, you are or I can try to give a relative case study or example, because I want people to not leave confused or quasi-motivated, but not seeing its direct, easy, applicable relevance to their life. And then I want them to basically do some soul searching. You've over delivered on explaining it. You've given them access if they're so inclined to want to be part of this. But now I think they have to, when we're done, they have to do what I call deep, concentrated, reflective thinking, where they have to decide, am I content with the way I am running my business? And more importantly, is my business running me? And is that how I want my future to continue? And based on all the things happening in the world, number one, all my direct competitors and all they are doing and how they're using all the different tools out there and margin compression and all the things going on. Number two, what's going on with the alternative methods that are out there. I'll give you an example, Simon, and everybody. If you and I were selling a supplement for weight loss, we have to think about all the other competitors we have and what attributes they have, but we also have to now worry about the alternative sources, portion control food, exercise equipment, all the new injections that people can take, personal trainers, virtual group training. And we have to have there's a lot to consider when factoring in, do I want to continue the self-imposed limited yield strategy I have? And I wrote a book that was published, 20 years ago. It was called The Sticking Point Solution. And it addressed 9 different ways people get stuck in their business. And one of the insights it made was you can be successfully stuck and not know it. You can be making more money than you ever imagined, have a lifestyle that exceeds your expectation, have all the toys and the attributes and the bank account that you could want, but you're not even coming close to attaining the possibility of the opportunity, the time, the effort, the market, the resource deployment, investment could yield, because you don't know how much more is possible. And then possible, as I said, it's a very subjective word, and who you pose it to is going to define it differently. At my age, I used to hold people's hand all the time. I don't do that anymore because it's too much demand. I want my time for discovery, for intellectual stimulation, for time with my family, for travel, but at a different place in your life. Your priorities that you are not really recognizing, acknowledging, achieving, fulfilling, or thinking are within your control may not even be recognized yet or acknowledged. But as soon as you do, then you really get awareness. Tony Robbins, when you go to one of his entry level, I think it's UPW, he challenges you to realize, are you really happy with your circumstance? If not, what are you not acknowledging that you really don't want to continue experiencing, doing, being? And if you don't want to continue that, what are you going to do instead? If nothing changes, if when you leave this, you don't at least apply what Simon has shared with you and I've embellished, what is going to change, if anything? And if it doesn't change, where are you going to be? That line of straight line, if you project it out, goes like this. Well, the world today is brutally competitive. It's shifting. Technological rapid innovation is beneficial or threatening. And if you don't really think about the fact that the most important thing you can be is the strategist for your business, not just the tactical person who does everything and worries about everything, but the person who rises above and has the ability to strategically think, to not just look at what has happened, but to think about what could happen. There's that adage about Wayne Gretzky, the hockey player, when he was really at his best, that he would never go to where the puck was hit. He would go to where it would end up, because he had the vision and the foresight. If you don't have the vision and the foresight to understand, and this is a brutal reality. One of the most famous management consultants, Peter Drucker, used to say this: if you are constantly committed to basically making what you do, how you do it, the way you do it obsolete, and replacing it with higher, better, more higher yielding alternatives, you can rest assured your competitor is committed to do it for you. Just always remember, no one has more than 24/7. How does a Warren Buffett create, $1 trillion or whatever of value, and an SMB can't break through the million or the 2 million or the 5 million or the $10 million mark? A lot of it is going to be predicated on how much you leave this day with, whether you align with us and we help you, or whether you just take it and embrace it and challenge your own reality and ask yourself, is that really the way I want to conduct, live, invest the rest of my business or personal life? That's my soliloquy. And I'm sorry I'm taking off a lot of our time, but I think some of the, as I said, Simon's the play-by-play, I'm the color, and the color is to give you a better interpretation of what's really being said here in terms of not the literal words, but the implication it really has in your future.
Warren Buffett is a great example because he was using the power of compounding, and he had actual time freedom. He designed his life and his business so that he could have time to read. He was an avid reader. He had time to think, and he took a few decisions per year, and he was always thinking about the bottleneck and the biggest leverage. He was basically using all these methods, and he's also one of the people that has contributed to us learning these methods. Now, we have a question in the chat from Nick that says, how are you guys, if all the hundreds of people here apply, how can you be attentive to us if you have so many hundreds people in the cohort? So let me address that directly. First of all, when you are a beginning business, then yes, every demand is tied to your time. But when you are in business since decades, like Jay and I are, now you have so many condensed tools that they can solve already hundreds of problems per week, probably before we even pick up the phone or before we even have to enter that. So that's why we have the 24/7 communities with all the tools, with resources, because many of the things that you need solving with, you can already solve just by the program architecture itself. You have the 24/7, community access. You can tag us, and it's on your phone. So because it's on our phone, the second part of your question is, how can you actually be attentive on our business when your calendar is full? Just because we have hundreds of members doesn't mean that our calendar is full. So that's exactly the method that you are going to learn. Your expertise can solve problems without your time being tight. That's the one part. So we have systemized and we have teams. There is the team at the Abraham Group. There is the team on the Strategy Sprints side that also support us. We're not doing everything ourselves. And then the second part is, this is the pilot group. So in the pilot group, we have freed up other commitments and reserved time to really dedicate to this cohort, because it's the first pilot group. So we are all excited and we are collaborating with you on this. This will get better and better week by week, and we all will learn more and become sharper. Jay is setting up to speak.
I am. Let me give you an empirical perspective, and it's a sad indictment on humanity, but it's true. I long have fascinated on the concept of a webinar. This is a very unique webinar, and it's an experimental webinar. But a webinar host, Simon, my team, goes into the market. If you have integrity, which we of course do, you explain what you are willing to openly and share that's proprietary in the course of a 2 or 3 hour or 90-minute a profound knowledge transfer. You identify how it will address gaps in the recipient of the promotions, life, business, wealth, whatever. You ask them if they are willing to trust you to do that for them. They do know that there's most probably going to be some economic opportunity that will be offered, but the majority of people who commit never show up. The majority of people who show up never stay. The majority of people who stay never do anything with it. That is the grim and profound truth. So we had approximately 650 people registered who wanted to learn the attributes that I shared in an email series that I sent to my database, and Simon shared through a bunch of other influencers to their database, 650. At its peak, we had less than 200, which is basically 1/3. So 650 people thought enough to register. I believe that is a tragic breach of their integrity, but not their commitment to us, but their commitment to themselves. It's a terrible indictment of the people. They aspire, but they don't have the commitment to actuate. They'll go back to their status quo existence, use the time that was committed originally for this to do other basically low yielding things, and lament either verbally or non-verbally about how stressed they are and how tired they are and how low yielding their marketing or their sales or their efforts are when they don't really avail themselves of it. We had about 170 people that started this. If you look at the numbers, and if you don't, we've got about 80 that it was too complex for them. It was too boring for them. It was too efforting for them. And so they're off to do whatever they are. And this will dissipate because truthfully, the research says you'll maximum retain 9% of what you've heard unless you repeat it continually and apply it immediately. So the majority of people who deep down recognize that the message we are introducing is rather profound, and it might be the last bastion of performance enhancement that an entrepreneur, particularly an SMB, could have. They wanted it enough to push a button and enroll, but not enough to show up or not enough to stay. And the question is, what will you do? The statistical probability is that, and there might be some that already availed themselves, with a very, very positive response, we'll have basically 20 of you. That's it. Why? Because most people, they talk about it, but they don't do it. They don't have faith in themselves. They don't have the time. The very thing that we're trying to give them, they don't have to allocate. And it's ironic and it's hypocritical. I tend to be tough love. I'm doing this as an experimental labor of love. It's an application of some of my methodology integrated through a operational high leverage system that Simon has created. It sounds a little complex, but in its application, it will be progressively very doable for anyone who wants to do it. But you have to want to do it. I mean, that adage, it's yours to lose, yours to win. I'm not the one. I started saying this years ago, but I'll say it again. I'm not the one who has invested my life, my hopes, my dream, no matter capital, Lord knows how many hours a week compounding in this business with the intention it's going to give me my satisfaction, my fulfillment, my security, my retirement, hopefully my wealth, because half of you don't even build your business, with an intention to make it an asset you could sell for a much higher multiple. I'm just the one in my normal body of work that's trying to help you achieve what you committed to way back in the beginning, and what you unknowingly or non-verbally or unrealizably commit to each and every morning when you get up and go to the business, and each and every evening when you leave. So my attitude is more, this is for you, particularly in the pilot rather than us. I don't do $10,000 deals. I do $250,000 retainers against upside. I do $120,000 intense full day consults that are very serious business building for serious business builders. I think this thesis is powerful enough and important enough that I lent a portion of my methodology, but more importantly, my passion, along with Simon's, to help you. Whether you avail yourself of it with us or just avail yourself of it yourself, avail yourself of it. But if you're happy being stressed out of your gourd, and if you're happy being limited, and if you're happy thinking about the business issues, problems, challenges, and opportunities day and night, and then continue. Again, this to me is the grand experiment. That's just my comment, Simon.
So meanwhile, if you have written, so people are starting already to enroll. That's wonderful to have collaborators. Welcome. Excited to work with you guys. And also some said that my name is actually obfuscating the QR code. So in addition to the QR code, we have the link here in the chat too. And I'm gonna post it again, guys. If you were trying to enroll, but you couldn't because of my fault, now you have also the URL there. And we have Brian.
Simon, I just wanted to mention that we were talking about the benefit of taking fast action. And so as an added additional incentive to just get started in the next business day, so from now until I think it's 6 o'clock Pacific time, I'm going to leave this open. We're going to put a coupon code in there that will give you a small discount, but it's our way of saying thank you for being one of the first people to test out this program, to take action. And we really want to reward your fast action because that's what gets results. So if you put in FASTRESULTS, probably all caps in the coupon section when you go into that page, then you will get an additional discount. And Robert, if you've already done it, we'll give you that incentive retroactively. So
Of course. And do they need to put it in capital letters, fast results?
yes, put it in all caps, and that should work.
And Simon, I suggest that we've done enough to prove our point. You should rapidly go through the rest of the content, and that because you know that I have a little shorter timeline. I have something that rudely I have to do shortly, but I want to make sure if anybody wants to ask questions, and I'd like to get some comments, not about how great we are, but how they see an application in their life. Again, whether they do it with us, do it themselves, that they're going to do it. And I want you to think about not just what I said before, but if you're one of those people who constantly commit and mostly don't show up or don't stay, but almost never do what you learn, knowing is not doing. Remember, knowing is not doing. Doing is not optimizing. Optimizing is not maximizing. Knowing in knowledge without action. There's a really famous book that was written, I don't know, 30 years ago. It was predicated on Einstein. It said action was the name of it. Nothing happens until something and someone moves. And the hardest thing for people to do is extricate themselves from their status quo. It's a quagmire. It's a mental quagmire. It's a comfort quagmire. It's almost a desensitizing where you don't even realize what's really going on. And I hope, if nothing else, you do a reality check at the deepest level of where you are and where you want to be, because you can't get to where you want to be if you don't have a better strategy if what you're doing isn't delivering it. So Simon, I think it'd be worthy just to, show the rest, but you don't have to go through that much depth, because I think we've either proven our value and underscored the merit, or we haven't, but it's worthwhile to honor everybody by showing them the rest.
Yes, and the enrollments are coming in already. Let me pick the last three questions to answer, and I think we have done a good job for today. So, question number one, Marianne is saying, okay, I want to enroll, but I want to make sure that I 100% understood the time commitment of this program and when the slots are before I commit, which shows exactly that you are a pro, Marianne. So the program structure is, there will be an onboarding call of 90 minutes. It's next Wednesday, December 10th at 8 a.m. Pacific. That's a 90 minutes call with the lay of the land, where we get to know your businesses better and you get to know the programs in and out, the setup, the community, how to use it, all the tools, where to find them, how to reach out to us, how to get our attention, and the communication structure and the whole methodology. Then from there on, we will work every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific for 60 minutes. A few of those sessions, Jay will be out of the country. A few of the sessions are Christmas, and we will not work during Christmas. And I will be there all the time. Brian will be there. Our teams will be there. And these 6 months will be every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific. Marianne, I hope that this answers your question. So the first session is not on a Thursday, it's on a Wednesday at the onboarding call, but then it's every Thursday, 8 a.m. Pacific. And here are the dates if you want to double check with your calendars. Go, Jay.
Simon, yeah, also just a parenthetical comment. The sessions will be available for replay, but speaking from my observation of people committing themselves, I would rather see the replay be repetitive play rather than you not showing up unless you have a serious personal issue that precludes you showing up, because it's part of the commitment to yourself. If you just say, I'm going to listen to it later, there's a different dynamic when you're part of a live experience. Now, because I told you that people retain 9% of what they hear, and that's when it's linear. If it's breakthrough thinking, it's going to be less because your mind's tripping out. There's a school of training that's called process training, which means every time you repeat the same knowledge base, you get more out of it, and that 9% turns into 18, and that 18 turns into 24, and sooner or later it's indelibly embedded into your psyche. But it will be replayable. But that fact notwithstanding, I would personally recommend that you don't abandon your commitment to yourself, and you really put it on your calendar and make that a thinking time for yourself. Because if you're going to do replays, you won't do it with full attention. You'll do it when you're driving and doing something else. You'll do it, in between things, and it'll be fragmented. I would rather see you use replays as re-listens or re-watches.
Yeah. Yes. The next question, and let's make it our last question, is from Nick Apostolopoulos. And this is more a question for you, Jay, than for me. My issue is that I own a distillery bar restaurant. So while I see how some of this could be valuable in getting my time back, it sounds a lot that this is geared towards B2B more than my business. Is Nick right?
So my response to you, and from my own heart, is I'm not really trying to sell you on me and Simon. You sell yourself. I don't know. I think that if you, so the question to ask yourself, what would you do with 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 more high value hours a week that you could invest in thinking more strategically, in thinking more powerfully? I don't know if it's worthwhile. And how many of those hours what kind of return would you need to get based on where you're at now, your margins, your number of new guests, your repeat, people who buy bottles of whatever you distill and take it, clubs you can set up. I have no idea, and I'm not going to even begin to sell you on it. You got to sell yourself on it. But I will tell you that spending more time strategically is the biggest weakness most SMBs and entrepreneurs fail to, and using the time more powerfully. I teach breakthrough thinking in most of my personal work, and breakthroughs are not necessarily tectonic. They don't have to be massive, technological, upending everything you're doing. They have to be breakthroughs in how you do things, where you do them, your messaging, your positioning, how you basically attract people, how you ethically optimize the amount of transactions or dollars and profit, how you get them to come back and bring more people, how many ways you can monetize them when they're not there. And if you already know all of them and not having any time and having time to spend more strategically isn't of value to you, you probably shouldn't do it. I mean, again, I'm not going to sell you out. It's for you guys. I'm just as intrigued as Simon is to see what'll happen when we lay it out. And again, this has a portion of my body of work, but it's more favored to just showing you how to free up low yielding time and replace it with exponential yielding time, with the caveat that you get to define how you invest that time and where your yield, your return, your payoff will be the best, whether it's financial, whether it's personal, whether it's I think that when you realize that the big message we have shared with you is you have far more control of your business/personal future than you've ever been told or ever realized, but it is yours to either pick up the gauntlet or walk away. So I can't tell you, but I would think, I don't know many entrepreneurs, unless they've optimized and maximized every marketing strategic, every part of my 3-way to grow a business, getting more buyers, getting buyers to spend more ethically every time they come, getting them to come back more. I don't know many people who've optimized my advanced 3 ways, which is basically, penetrating new niches, markets every year, adding new products and services to multiply dramatically the lifetime value, acquiring assets that can multiply. I mean, if you've done all that and you have plenty of time to do all that, then I would not even consider this. But I would consider what we are offering is the mechanism you need to elevate yourself to the ability to become your own strategist. The form that we wrote a book, and I can find it. It's probably even deeper than Simon's demonstration of some of these tools, but it's called The CEO Who Can See Around Corners. And the key overriding principle is the role of the CEO, whether you're a small business, a medium business, running 20,000 employees, is to be the strategist, to think. And there's a book that a colleague of mine wrote, and it was called You Are Paid to Think. Sorry, I just wanted to access another thought. But the real truth is you're not paid to think. You're paid to outthink. You're paid to out-strategize. You are paid to out-optimize. You are paid to out-value create. You are paid to outperform. You are paid to out-achieve. You are paid to out-compete. And if you don't have time to really figure out how to do that, then basically if you're using your time to think about the same things everybody else is thinking about and following the herd, you have no advantage. And I think that Business is the ultimate competitive sport, and you don't want an equal playing field. And if you don't want an equal playing field and you want to have advantage, to gain advantage, you have to be able to spend deep, focused time thinking differently about everything in your business and also in your life, because you got to align with where your values have maybe gotten aberrated, where you have abused the opportunity that you are investing in. That's just my answer. It's a very protracted one, but I don't know. And if you don't know, don't do it. Do it. You have to decide how much freeing up your time is worth over forever.
One more answer to your questions, guys, and I'm going to bundle 3 questions into one, because Jaye is saying, yes, I mean, let's do this. Robert is saying, hey, wait a moment. If we skip the Christmas sessions and the New Year's Eve session, doesn't this kill momentum? And so, Robert, let me tell you already that just because we skip 2 calls doesn't mean that we interrupt the work. This is a sprint program, so we are always creating, solving, thinking, and creating breakthroughs. The community is open 24/7. We have this on our phone. So I will be, out there and being hiking or running, and you tag me and you have a questions. I'm going to stop and answer you, because this is our passion. We don't do this as an obligation. We do this because that's what we love doing. We never stop. This is our life. This is the people that we want to spend our time with and the topics that give us energy. So there is, I promise you this is a sprint program. The momentum will be high in every moment. And just because we don't come together for 60 minutes doesn't mean that the momentum will be slowing down. And specifically, nothing slows you down when you create and you tag me and you share what you're building. We will help you refine it, criticize it, make it better, make it sharper, and we will help you get faster to your destinations. Then we had the question, when is the last session? The last session will be around June 18th. So by summer, you will be so proud of your business, you will take much longer vacations maybe, or have a better destination in mind. Many more questions that I could answer, but I think we got this. We have now a very clear pathway. We know when it's starting. The collaborators are already in. Brian J., any questions, remarks, additions from your side?
I think that this is food for a lot of reflective thought. And I think you should all go and reflect. And as I said, we would like to have a dozen or so of you that we can engineer through the pilot process and really activate all the attributes of this methodology and all the modules. But also, if you're not going to do it, we hope you'll do it anyhow yourself. Don't be someone who does things for intellectual entertainment. Knowing isn't doing. That's it. I think you did a good job. I think Brian made some good interventions. If I usurped you a couple of times, it was only in advocacy of the market. I'm always committed to everyone's best interest. Most of my work, as I've said, is very deep and very performance enhancing, but specific. This is a very meaningful experiment, which I hope will have the chance to meaningfully contribute to some of you, and we'll see how it plays out in the future. If you don't avail yourself of this, our hope is that we have 100% successes of the people that do things, and unfortunately, signing up isn't doing it. So we'll see what happens. But if we get the outcome we know to be doable, we will start really promoting it in the outside market, and it'll probably be a bit longer. It won't be as compressed for you, but it will be, probably 3 times more expensive, because it'll deserve that if it transforms the trajectory of your life. And you can wait till then too, if you want to, do it, for about 3 times as much, and I'm fine with that. But if you're capable of being committed and reporting back and really doing the exercises and the homework, whatever 6 months is. So June, if you look back, the person leaving the last session would probably be a totally transformed entrepreneur than the one that entered it this morning. And that's my final. I'm going to leave, but you did good, Simon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, everybody. See you on the other side. Keep rolling.
Awesome. Simon, is there any last things that you wanted to cover, or did you? If anyone has questions, you can email me at brian@abraham.com. I put in my email address there. Let me do it again. So if you're kind of sitting on the fence, feel free to do that. And happy to answer those. I'm available Pacific Coast time. So that coupon code will be available till 6 p.m. The offer is really open until about December 8th. So if you need to discuss it with partners, you can still enroll Monday. But we do want to get this rolling on December 10th, which is next Wednesday. So we hope to see you in the program next Wednesday. And I want to thank you all for joining us. And I wish you the very best in simplifying your life, simplifying your business, and finding time freedom in all that you do. So thank you again for joining us all. We'll see you in the program. Thanks again. Bye.